So, you think you know firewood? You might want to think again. We've got some incredible stories and surprising facts that most people have never heard. But if you already know some, well, congratulations! You're part of the firewood elite. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into some fascinating firewood trivia. Who knows? You just might learn something new today. Welcome to American Outdoors. The Iroquois Indians of North America, known as early innovators of tapping maple trees for syrup and for the Three Sisters method of planting corn, beans, and squash together, developed sophisticated forest management techniques long before the first European settlers arrived. The Iroquois practiced selective harvesting. Rather than felling large trees indiscriminately, they used stone-cutting tools to girdle trees and took only dead or dying trees and limbs for firewood. They also used controlled burns to promote new growth, support wildlife, and maintain healthy forests, techniques now being rediscovered and practiced by modern forest managers. Black locust is one of the hardest and most durable woods native to North America. It's so strong and rot-resistant that pioneers used it for shipbuilding and fence posts that lasted well over a century. But as firewood? Well, it burns hotter than oak, about 28 million BTUs per cord, and produces almost no smoke. In fact, pound for pound, black locust contains more energy than anthracite coal. It also leaves very little ash, meaning fewer cleanouts for wood stove users. The downside? It's notoriously hard to split, even with a hydraulic log splitter. It will quickly dull a chainsaw blade, and it's heavy, about 48 pounds per cubic foot. Black locust is what you call big boy firewood. In 1816, during what became known as the Year Without a Summer, the massive eruption of Mount Tambora in Indonesia in April 1815 spewed volcanic ash and gases, including sulfur dioxide, into the stratosphere. This created a global veil of particles that reflected sunlight back into space, cooling the planet by about 1 degree. Now, that might not sound like much, but it completely upended global weather patterns. In the US, snow fell in June, and New England reported ice on rivers and lakes as late as August. Firewood reserves were quickly depleted, and deliveries were hampered by flooded or snow-packed roads. Diaries and letters from 1816 describe families burning furniture and even green wood out of desperation. Firewood prices skyrocketed, crops failed, and many residents moved west in search of better conditions. It was truly a brutal year. The origins of the term cord of wood date back to a time when woodcutters and sellers would use a length of rope to outline a pile's length, width, or height, ensuring consistency, or at least the appearance of it, for buyers. While this method could sometimes be vague or misleading for sizing a load of firewood, rope was also commonly used to tie bundles of smaller sticks like kindling. The word cord is thought to have evolved from this practice of cording wood together. Two trees of the same species and age, like red oak, for example, can burn differently based on factors like location, growth rings, and hardness. These variables influence the wood's density, moisture content, and chemical composition, all of which affect how much heat it creates, how it burns in your fireplace, or how it flavors something like meat during smoking. Let's break it down. A tree from a wet lowland area, say a Carolina swamp, might grow faster, with wider growth rings and a less dense structure because it has ample water and nutrients. This wood could burn quicker and hotter, but might not sustain as long a fire due to lower density. Conversely, a red oak from a rocky Appalachian slope, facing harsher conditions and slower growth, often develops tighter rings and denser wood. That density means a slower, steadier burn with more heat output over time. Soil chemistry also plays a role. Higher levels of minerals like potassium or calcium in one location could subtly alter the smoke's flavor by changing the wood's ash content. When it comes to notoriety, firewood theft in the United States isn't as headline-grabbing as some other crimes, but it's a persistent and significant issue, especially in rural and forested areas. It's serious enough to cause substantial economic losses and environmental damage. The U.S. Forest Service has estimated that illegal timber harvesting, including firewood, costs about $100 million annually on federal lands alone, with 1 in 10 trees felled on public property taken illegally. Firewood theft, often small scale, by the truck or trailer load, may not seem significant, but it adds up. One 50-foot tree, say 16 inches in diameter, can equal 3/4 of a cord of firewood. A recent case in Missouri's Mark Twain National Forest saw a man charged with cutting 27 trees for firewood. showing how even individual acts can sting. In the spring of 1828, a 19-year-old Abe Lincoln was living in southern Indiana, working odd jobs. He hired on with another lad, Allen Gentry, for $8 a month to take a flatboat loaded with goods, bacon, corn, and a stash of firewood, 1,200 miles down the Ohio and Mississippi rivers to New Orleans. To be clear, the firewood was part of the cargo, likely cut from oak or hickory along the Ohio River, that they intended to sell on the side to help offset costs. When they tied up in New Orleans in May 1828, Lincoln and Allen hit a snag. Local authorities had declared a tax on all incoming goods. This would take a big bite out of their profit. Here's where the story gets clever. With the mind of an up-and-coming lawyer, Lincoln found a loophole. Instead of declaring the firewood as taxable cargo, he sold it directly to a steamboat captain as fuel for the boat's boilers. Fuel sold for onboard use dodged the cargo tax, as it was deemed an operational supply, not a market good. By framing it as a quick, dockside deal, Lincoln turned a liability into cash without the taxman's cut. No tax collector was the wiser, and no law was technically broken, maybe just bent a little to young Lincoln's advantage. How long is firewood considered good after it's been seasoned? And by seasoned, we mean it has been cut, split, and dried to a moisture content below 20%. The answer depends. There's no official expiration date, but quality and usability can degrade over time, depending on storage conditions, wood type, and environmental factors. Good firewood burns efficiently, produces decent heat, and doesn't smoke excessively. Under ideal conditions, stacked off the ground, covered from rain but ventilated, and stored in a dry, airy spot like a woodshed, seasoned firewood can remain good for 3 to 5 years without significant loss in quality. Hardwoods like oak, hickory, and maple, which are dense and low on resins, can last even longer. Softwoods like pine or cedar, with higher sap content, might peak at 3 years before a noticeable decline sets in. A University of Nebraska study found that seasoned hardwood stored under cover lost a negligible amount of energy after 5 years. But beyond 7 to 10 years, heat output dropped sharply and insect damage spiked. If it stinks, crumbles, or is infested with bugs, it's past its use-by date, at least for home heating. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out our other content, where we cover everything firewood related, like the hottest burning hardwoods and softwoods in the US, the cost of heating with wood versus electric, gas, oil, or propane, what to do with wood ash, and much more. You can also find us on X, Facebook, and Pinterest. We read every comment, so share your thoughts below. And don't forget to support the channel by hitting like and subscribe. From all of us at American Outdoors, thanks for watching.